What's up, YouTubers? Today we're going to talk about the EMP EDC Nymble W for WHARNCLIFFE. EMP is every man's pocket, EDC everyday carry. This is designed and, basically the company's put together by John Rusk, and he's the designer of the Nymbles. And these are just super fidgety knives. They're actually, some of the frame locks are, they're all frame locks. Well, no, actually he had some liners, so never mind. Let's get back to this one. But I will say out of the gate, the left-handedness on this one is really good because of the position of the pocket clip. But we're jumping ahead a little bit. I just have a little bit of an injured right hand, so I'll be using the left a little bit more today. So this knife has a 3.25-inch WHARNCLIFFE blade of M390 Super Steel. It weighs 4.2 ounces, and it priced at $279. This is one of those things that you pre-order, and several months later you get it. I'm not sure what they're going for now, but check the EMP EDC site for current prices and availability for various pre-orders of different models. So in terms of some comparisons, love the fidgetiness on this one. In terms of some comparisons or alternatives, the original EMP EDC Nymble, I will go ahead and link the initial impressions, kind of comparing these two up there, but I'm going to do a little bit less of that here. You can see that the original EMP EDC is 3-inch blade, a little bit smaller, actually quite a bit smaller, certainly in hand it feels that way, thinner blade stock, and that one comes with a spear point. There was also a Tonto version of that, so that would definitely be one of your comparisons or alternatives, but for me, the natural comparison, in fact, we'll go ahead and put the Nymble away, the original Nymble, because boy, for me, this was just like a dead ringer. This is the WE Knives Roxy 3 designed by Todd Knife & Tool, also exactly 4.2 ounces, but a 3.15-inch blade, so just a smidge shorter. I think another alternative actually to this as well, I haven't handled one, I have seen it on Sawtooth Dave's channel though, is the Jason Grant Gripper. It seems to be a little bit more robust, a little bit bigger. I think it's a longer blade, so that, but it has kind of some of these same lines in terms of in hand, so again, the Jason Grant Gripper I think is probably a good alternative here, but out of the gate, I will just compare. The one thing that I did notice is the blade stock is I haven't actually measured the blade stock on this in a long time. It's fairly similar, but what you do see there is you have a much higher grind on the Roxy here on the left hand side. You only have basically a 2/3 saber height grind on the other one, and so if you look at that kind of tip, just the tip, may not show up super well, but it is definitely a thicker grind in the end on that one, and that's really the primary difference in terms of the function. In hand, they're both each very fidgety and so forth. But let's jump into the pros of this knife. It is extremely fidgety. You can do backside spidey flick, thumb hole. It's got a fairly big hole there, and kind of like a fuller, so you can, if you want to, slow roll this one. Works decently well. A lot of times frame locks aren't the best for that. You have the rear flipper. You can do all sorts of things, the light switch or the lighter, that sort of thing. It has the front flipping action. So yeah, this thing is just insanely fidgety, very multi-deployment. And like I said, let's jump into one of the other pros of this knife. As frame locks go, this is going to be one of your better deploying ones left-handed. Of course, it only has a right-handed tip-up pocket clip, but in terms of just the use of it, I found myself actually very, quite often just being able to use this one with the left hand, and kind of appreciated that. This tip is nasty, and I mean nasty good. It is just, boy, it did cut me once. You just got to be really careful on it when you're dealing with kind of any WHARNCLIFFE. But this one is, oh yeah, that one will get you. Very, very useful. The heat treat was really good on this thing. In fact, let me go ahead and bring out, I put this in the front side montage, but I completely debarked this limb here. I sat there for like an hour plus, taking off, from the very dirty outside stuff and starting to work in on this one. When we went and cut our Christmas tree down, and after an hour, no chips, no rolls. And that's very uncommon. A lot of times when I'll use some of my fixed blades, this is what I'll typically use that for, but I just simply forgot on that day. It's like, this is all I had on my pocket. And usually I'll pick up a few chips on that, like on 3V steel or whatever, just because there's rocks and a lot of dirt and dust on those, and I completely no chips or rolls on this one. So I think this might have been the last QSB batch. I'm not sure. This might actually be Bestech. I'm not sure. Like I said, I don't really fret those too much. They're both very reputable. And hey, this is really, really well done. So they didn't really mess up anything here. The knife is perfectly centered. If you fret that, it came perfectly centered, and it is. The L lock for the frame, I have loved this on the Nymble model. If you take a look, it's kind of a little reverse L. So instead of just a flat slab that goes up against the tang of the blade, you have this nice shaped, and if you kind of look at the backside here, a kind of nice shape that kind of tucks up underneath the tang of the blade there. So it definitely inspires a lot more confidence for me. And it actually ends up being more comfortable the way this thing fits over there, because you don't have, sometimes you'll have a sharp point, and this one just, really, really nice. So that is a really, really good and very thoughtful design thing. So I really appreciate that. The mid choke up ergos, and for me, I'm calling this would be the rear. Back there, medium large hands. The front choke up, we're going to talk about that in a bit, but the mid choke up for me, I found, was actually the most comfortable position. Just primarily, it just worked the best for me when I found that I was using stuff to cut, especially just cutting on this wood. I mean, in this position, I cut for an hour and a half, and actually barehanded, not even wearing gloves. Maybe not an hour and a half, but an hour and 15, and no problems in the hand. So really, really good. And with that also comes a little bit from the contouring of this titanium. You can kind of see that show a little bit better from this back end, but it does kind of contour around a little bit. So that really, really loved. And then the titanium milling on the inside to lighten this thing. Hopefully that shows up. I never know when the milling's going to show up. I'm sure you can probably see the dirt and dust that I picked up in there. But yeah, there's a lot of milling to thin this, to lighten this thing up, and I appreciate that. Just for carry, right? You're not using this thing 8 hours a day. You're carrying it 8 hours a day and maybe using it for 2 to 3 minutes for the most part. So for me, I actually don't mind having knives milled out. Kind of prefer it. Doesn't pull my pants down too. So that's another great pro of this knife. In terms of the cons, this blade stock is a little bit too thick, and especially the way that the saber grind did not go up very high. I maybe would have left, who knows, a hollow or just a little bit higher grind. I get why the lines, if you take a look at it, the lines are kind of beautiful in terms of the grind lines. You have basically, this looks to be kind of rubbed that way, and then you have your vertical grind lines. But from a purely functional perspective, it ended up being a little bit thick there. And so, especially as it picked up adhesive cutting through boxes, I showed that on the front side, taking off that adhesive. It definitely, that's when you wish you had a thinner blade, is when it would pick up adhesive, because it was just literally sticking to the cardboard and just tearing it instead of cutting. So, just a little bit of a functional con, I think, for that part. The full forward choke up, I did not like. It's not a full finger choil there. You can kind of put a little bit of your finger, and I think when I kind of took a look at it in the plunge, it is really not a full choke up. So you just got to really watch that. It's just not a safe place to go. So don't use that. It's one of those things where, and I will go ahead and demonstrate that, because for me it was an important point of the original Nymbles. You can get right up there with that full finger choil. And, this one, it just does lack that. So, would I have preferred it? I don't know. I think it's a 50-50 in all honesty. You do have a lot more cutting blade here, length, but would I have sacrificed a little bit of that? If it would have to then radius up a little higher. I don't know if that would change any of it, but you'll notice, I don't know that would have. So, excuse me, for me, I think it's just a little bit of a con. The initial action was a bit gritty, and I was a little concerned, but it's just one of those things that happens from time to time as your bearings are building in a race, in whatever material. It after the month of use, yeah, no problems. It's nice and smooth, and I kind of like that it's not super drop shitty required. It's kind of very controlled, so I really actually don't mind that at all. It's just that it was one of those things. Ended up fine. Started out gritty. And this is just a little bit less nimble than the Nymble. In hand, in pocket, in slicing, in action, it's just, like I said, the Nymble, it's a little less nimble with an I, N-I-M-B-L-E, because there is a little bit more nimble with a Y. And, I appreciate that this is a little bit bigger one in hand when I want to have that full hand in the rear position, but I just ended up finding myself here, and so I could have probably just sacrificed that. I don't know. It ended up, to me, it was just a little bit big. There are other bruises I would take, maybe like a Chavez, Ultramar, something like that, if I'm going to go for kind of a bigger bruiser, Chinese-made titanium knife, with good manufacturing. So, just a little bit of a con for me. Overall, I really would say this is a nice fidgety wizard knife with great WHARNCLIFFE capabilities. That tip is very, very useful. It's fairly priced, but it is not a bargain basement price. It looks nice, it cuts well, but it does suffer a little bit of slicing, je ne sais quoi shortcomings just due to that thicker blade stock there. If you like the Nymbles, decide which one. They're great. They're fidgety. They're very well done. Decide which one you want. You may want the original. There's the Tonto. There is the liner lock. They're great design, and like I said, the pros definitely outweigh the cons. But decide if you do want that little bit bigger blade stock and feel in the hand. And if not, maybe go for one of the other ones. Hope this was of use. If it was, I appreciate the like and subscribe, and have a great day. Take care now. What's up, YouTubers? Today, we're going to talk about the EMP EDC. That's the Everyman's Pocket. Excuse me.